Here I am in an undisclosed location, about to tear apart this mystery S52. Let's get started and I'll tell you about it as we go. That one's gonna break. Oh, fuck. That one's gonna break. I'm telling you. Try to work it slowly. Holy shit, dude. It didn't fucking break. Let's go. It'd be funny if it broke now. Alright. It's all the bolts broken loose. Let's pull them out and pull the pan. Alright, so I changed the angle of the shot, so hopefully you can actually see the top of my head now. I'm going to explain, while I'm pulling all these bolts out, where I got this engine from and the story behind it. I bought it from Chicago, and I'm all the way in North Carolina. This motor allegedly had a blown head gasket. I bought it for like $1,200. Fully dressed, like had everything on it except for exhaust and power steering pump. But it came with an engine harness, no ECU, and I was pretty stoked. I was like, damn, that's a pretty good deal. You know, you get the cams, the head, the crank, the pistons, the rods, which altogether cost a hell of a lot more than $1,200 if you find the right buyer at least. I mean, the cams and the trays alone are like $600. The head's actually at the machine shop right now, but waiting to see if that thing is actually good. See if I can sell it or keep it, maybe put it in my car. But the thing with these mystery engines, so to speak, first off, the guy I bought it from didn't even know how many miles was on the car. So this engine could have anywhere from like 150 to 300,000 miles for all I fucking know. Like, there's no way to really tell. I know it's definitely not a low mileage engine based on what I've seen so far. I mean, the cams were actually in decent condition, but they were lightly scored. Still usable. But God, when you open these up, like, who knows? There could be a spun bearing in here. I mean, I don't know. It turned over fine, but you never know. Oh, shit. So the S52 is a 3.2 liter, but it's actually not a 3.2 liter. It's actually a 3.152 liter, or 3.154, I don't remember. But it's not actually 3.2 liters, but it's marketed as a 3.2 liter. So that name of the engine is the S52 B32. 32 is supposed to be the displacement. But they couldn't put like B31.5. You know, it's kind of sounds shitty. Nobody wants that engine. Funnily enough, the S54, which is also a 3.2 liter, is actually also not 3.2 liters. It's actually 3.24 something. So the S54 is actually 0.1 liters bigger than this engine, but they're both marketed as 3.2 liter. And the S54 makes almost 100 horsepower more than this motor, but that's for very different reasons. That's not because of displacement. Now we got this S52 motor. It's basically just a M52, but it has different cams, and it's stroked and bored. So it's stroked to 86.4 millimeters. Actually stroked, I meant bored. Bored to 86.4 millimeters. And its stroke is 89.6 millimeters, which is bigger than the M52, which is 84 by 84. I think it's actually a square motor, if I remember correctly. So this is just like a tuned version, a souped up version of the M52. And we only got this engine in the US, I believe. Now the European version of this engine, or every other fucking market in the world, they got a real M engine. That's not just a tuned version of the 3 Series engine. They got the S50B30 in 94 and 95, and 96 plus, they got the S50B32. So the S50B30 is a 3 liter, the B32 is a 3.2 liter. Now the S50B32, the one that America did not get, is actually a true 3.2 liter. So it actually is like almost exactly 3.2 liters. Unlike the S52 and the S54. So it's a funny thing about displacement and shit. So this engine made 240 horsepower, assuming it ran correctly, which many of these don't, and 236 pound-feet of torque, or foot-pounds of torque, whatever you fucking want to say, I don't give a shit. Which is not bad. I mean, for a 3.2, it's like what, 60 to 70 horsepower per liter or something. But these engines do respond pretty well to mods like different intake. On this motor particularly, the S52, it responds very well to a different intake manifold from the M50 or the S50. Yeah, exhaust, like these engines like headers. The stock manifolds are actually pretty good, but when you put long tube headers, they make more top end power. Plus you have a few different options for cams. Schrick makes quite a few sets of cams for this car, different durations and peak valve lift. What's the fucking term? Cam profile, I don't know. But the point being, there is quite a bit of aftermarket support for this engine. Would be a pretty good option if you were trying to get into, rear-wheel drive sports cars. The E36 M3 would be a great, starter car. The only problem is that they're fucking really expensive now. So they're hard to find decently priced. Like, it's hard to find a good one under 10 grand now, which kind of sucks. I got mine during the height of COVID for like $5,500. Salvage title, I mean, high mileage, but ran fine. Hasn't given me many problems. Only let me down one time, and I've daily driven the car for 3 years, so these are stout engines. You'd be surprised. Everybody shits on BMW's reliability, but they're actually, old ones are pretty reliable. I don't know about the new ones. God damn. Ooh. Bunch of shit just went everywhere. God damn. It is dirty as fuck in here. Oil pump nut is tight. It's a good sign. Dude, it is so... I've never seen the fucking bottom of an engine look this dirty. This is insane. They might not have been running full synthetic oil. Fun fact, you can't reuse any of these bolts that I'm removing right now. The pickup tube bolt, the oil pump bolts, the windage tray bolts, because they're all aluminum. Can't reuse those because they stretch when you tighten them. I mean, you can reuse them, but they might break. You're not supposed to reuse them. Okay, oil pump nut is reverse thread, so you actually have to tighten it to loosen it. The infamous oil pump nut and sprocket. So this nut is known on these engines to back off. It literally loosens while you're driving it, especially on manual cars. I guess because you shift harder, it might loosen the bolt. Um, One thing people do to avoid that is they'll either weld the nut to the sprocket, which I think is kind of dumb. Other people will like drill a hole inside of the nut, or you can buy one pre-drilled, and then they will thread like mechanics wire through that hole in the nut and then tie it to like the sprocket, which is kind of janky. Um, the only like real solution I've seen is just buying like a upgraded oil pump shaft and nut and sprocket. I think Achilles Motorsports sells it. But all the other solutions work fine. I mean, it's just personal preference at the end of the day. Okay, I got a better angle here. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the oil pump as one thing. I'm not gonna remove the pickup tube separately. Maybe I should, but I'm not. 13 millimeters. It's only 3 bolts. I've always felt like it should be 4. There's like 1, 2, 3, and nothing here. But, I mean, there's no fucking room to put a bolt. It's all crankshaft and rod down here. It's all rod and shaft. Let's get it off. There we go. Okay, next is getting this windage tray. It looks like just 10 bolts. I think they're 11s. I lied, they're not 11s, they're 10s. I thought they were 11s for some reason. What the fuck? That one's already loose. I did not loosen that. That's concerning. Yeah, I did not loosen that. That's odd. Alright, windage tray. Comes right out. Let's go ahead and pull the pistons out. Rods and pistons. Let's start by pulling off 3 and 4. And these are very fucking tight, so be careful. Okay. Remember what I said about aluminum bolts? These cannot be reused. These really cannot be reused. Not only should they not be reused, they cannot be reused. Like, they will most likely snap. These can be reused if you're going to plasti gauge the rod bearings against a crank, like if you're installing new ones, but not if you're going to be running them in the motor. Like, you only use them to plasti gauge, and then once you take them back out, you throw them away. Like, these are not supposed to be reused. I actually don't know what would happen if you did reuse these in an engine, but I'm sure you would not want to find out. Let's put it that way. Let's see if I can pull off this first bearing. Oh, the bearing stuck to the rod. To the crank, I mean. So this cylinder 3 bearing is not too bad. It has a very little bit of wear. A lot of what you're seeing is just oil. I can't exactly, I don't have a rag for some fucking reason, so I can't clean it off to show you. But it's really not bad. I wonder if these have been changed at some point. That's why that windage tray bolt was loose. Cylinder 4 bearing, also not bad at all. The crank journals are perfect. Taps. There we go. And now that I have a rag, I can clean off the bearing and show you exactly how much it's worn. Just a little bit of wear, dude. Like, this engine was really good to go for another freaking couple 100,000 miles. Let's go ahead and pull the rest of these. Very light taps. Does not take a lot of pressure to get these out. Boom, just like that. And I guess we'll get it cylinders 1 and 6 next. It's generally better to pull than to push. Okay. I can't get a grip on the top. There we go. And last but not least, cylinder 2 and 5. This one's full of shit. I'm gonna go dump this outside in a container. Okay, that concludes the rod and piston crankshaft portion. I'm gonna cover this up for now. Let's go look at the bearings and the piston skirts. Alrighty, cylinders 1 through 6 respectively. Top bearing, bottom bearing, all across. Cylinder 1, the bearing, a little bit of wear on the bottom bearing. But, I mean, if that's really the worst of it across all 6 pistons and rods, really not that bad. Like, I'm 100% sure these bearings have been replaced before. We would be seeing a lot more of that, like, consistently across the middle on top and bottom bearings. If these bearings really had, like, 180-something thousand miles, like the last guy said. As far as the pistons go, not a lot of side skirt wear. There's a little bit you can see, but none of that can be felt with the fingernail. I checked every cylinder. That looks bad, but again, you can't even feel it. So, across every cylinder, you're gonna see a little bit of that wear. Hey, dog. It's really not that bad. That's just some oil, too. So, cylinder 4, cylinder 5. Some oil. I tried to clean these up the best I could, but I ran out of brake clean, so. And then cylinder 6. This one is the worst one. This one has a little bit of rust around the ring land here, and this ring is actually stuck. I didn't even try to get it out, but I'm sure it's not that hard if you try, but I'm not gonna try. But still, it's in pretty good condition. Definitely some water got into this engine and caused that. But that's not that bad. That's just surface rust. That can come off with a wire wheel or something less abrasive if you're worried about fucking anything up. The tops of the pistons, I tried to clean them up a little bit, but really not that bad. The carbon buildup is minimal. Really not bad. These will sell for a pretty decent price. So that's that.